Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm going to be addressing a question that I get quite a lot and that I've seen a hell of a lot over on the internet, and I've seen a lot of arguments between Nvidia and AMD fanboys and side versus side, and that question is Nvidia sabotaging AMD? I can't even speak, what a great start. But the reason I've wanted to address this is because I want to come completely unbiased. My main system over here, my budget gaming PC, uses an Nvidia GeForce GTX 750 Ti in an AMD CPU. So I've got a bit of both going on in there. And I'm over on Reddit here, and I know Reddit's not always the most reliable of sources, but it's definitely got a very good rundown time-wise of things that Nvidia has done that have negatively impacted upon AMD sales. Now, there's two sides for this, and there's two sides to the argument. The first is that Nvidia are a company, they're in it to make money, and they want to get rid of as much competition as possible, but it's how much of it was done in an ethically manner, and how much was done in a non-ethically manner. See, I can't say words. So morally, have Nvidia done the right thing, or are they trying to push AMD out of business? And now, to be clear, I want AMD and Nvidia to do well, and everybody needs both of them to compete, because more competition equals more development within products, equals more evolution for the consumer. For example, over the past year and a half, Nvidia and Intel have got incredibly lazy. Nvidia have had their GTX 900 series of cards out now for almost 2 years, and that is unheard of. But because AMD are basically rebranding old cards, aside from the Fury and the Fury X, Nvidia are able to do that and still regain over 70% market share at the time of this video. So let's head all the way back to 2008. AMD became a great threat to Nvidia, so Nvidia bought AGEA, A-G-E-I-A. And AGEA was the physics processing unit that allowed AMD users to use PhysX, and that's something that Nvidia users have had a massive use of very recently. Now, originally the uses for that were mainly in sort of 3D rendering and editing and that kind of thing, but PhysX is now being sort of phased out a little bit. But more recently, in 2014, Nvidia released the GameWorks API. Now, many people will remember Hairworks. Nvidia Hairworks was something that happened within The Witcher 3 that basically gave developers access to Nvidia's special API to make the hair, we all know what hair is, I hope, that made the hair look a lot more realistic for Nvidia cards in The Witcher 3. They basically went to a lot of the developers of the game, and have done it since with other games as well, and basically went, we want to give you this, we want to make this game look great on Nvidia cards, but you're not allowed to do such thing on an AMD card. And that's partly, I can understand why Nvidia have done that, and I can understand from a business standpoint, especially why Nvidia have done that. But you've also got to remember that AMD, they've been sitting there and they've been idle and they've been doing nothing. If you look back to their 200 series of cards, the 200 series of cards were basically their rebranded HD series of cards, such as the HD 7970, the HD 7850, all those kind of cards. AMD then rebranded those into the 200 series and now the 300 series. So AMD have been sitting there idle. Back in 2013, Nvidia also hired one of AMD's staff, and they stole a classified AMD document. Now, that is completely unethical, and in my opinion, and I think in everybody's opinion, that could be completely wrong, because I do think there's a line of business and there's a line of profit, and there's also that line that I think Nvidia have crossed massively with ethics and morals and that kind of thing. It is, however, worth noting that Nvidia, it's thought that Nvidia never got access to these documents before they were punished for what they had done. Back in 2012, you may remember, Nvidia did some pretty questionable things with the foundries. So the foundries are the partners that they have that basically make the Nvidia and the AMD graphics cards. And if you didn't know, many of these Nvidia and AMD graphics cards are actually made by the same companies for Nvidia and AMD, so in similar foundries. And basically, Nvidia threatened that they'd find other bulk manufacturing foundries to make their chips and to make their graphics processors, and basically that meant that AMD were then put on the back foot, and AMD ended up having to release cards late in 2012 in I believe the third quarter, as opposed to the first or the second quarter. Now, this is a bit of both, and this could be viewed in either way. It could be viewed as completely unethical and unmoral, but who's to say AMD wouldn't have done the same thing? And you have to look at Nvidia, and you have to look at they have been constantly evolving their cards. Very recently, they've got very lazy, and people have realised that. But what have AMD done? They released their Fury and their Fury X. They had some really nice cards out there, and they had the R9 295X2. But apart from that, they've been sitting idle. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that Nvidia, from 2008 all the way through to 2014, did some very, very questionable things. But if I scroll down this page, you can also see that AMD has done some stupid things that haven't helped themselves whatsoever. Basically, in 2006, AMD paid $3.2 billion more than ATI was worth. Now, ATI was what AMD purchased, and if you've got something like a Wii console, so an older Nintendo console, or an older like Xbox or something like that, an older games console, or even an older PC, you may see the ATI logo on the side. And basically, AMD bought ATI, and that's what they put a lot of their basis upon for some of their graphics cards. And ATI was a really, really big move for them, but they paid a lot more than ATI was worth. And from AMD's part, whilst that was way back in 2006, so 10 years ago, $3.5 billion is a hell of a lot of money. So what I'm trying to say is Nvidia may have done some questionable things, and I'm not saying Nvidia haven't done things that I've disagreed with, but what Nvidia's done is not going to make me any less want to buy an Nvidia GTX 980, 970, 960, 950. And you have to remember, Nvidia have been making evolutions, and they have been moving on. And whilst we need AMD because we need competition for the consumer, you can't say that Nvidia have been sitting there idle doing nothing. So if you'd like to see my video on my message to AMD, then you can click that now in the cards section around about here, I believe. But the point I'm trying to make is Nvidia might have done some stupid things, but AMD haven't helped themselves. If you found this video helpful, if you've got your own opinions, drop them in the comments below. Sorry it was a little bit longer. I'll try and make the next one a little bit shorter. But, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Follow my Twitter at GeekaWhat. And we'll, as always, see you in the next GeekaWhat video.